Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't mess with a man's car. The story of belated parking lot revenge. Years ago, I lived in a coastal city and became friends with a guy who owned a boat. He kept his boat docked near a popular tourist area, and the garage he used was often full due to the crowds. As a slip owner, he had a pass that would give him priority at a private garage entrance so he could skip the lines and be more certain of getting a parking spot. This isn't uncommon for private garages that offer monthly passes or passes to employees. Also, due to the crowds, this garage had a computer that would count the number of cars going in and the cars going out. It would not let any vehicles into the garage if there were no spots available. One day, my friend used his pass to get into the garage, knowing it was nearly full. After doing a full lap of all levels, he realized the only remaining spot was next to an older, crap brown, metallic Corvette with vanity plates that had parked about a foot over the line. Well, sucks to be that guy. My friend pulled his little SUV in, blocking the driver's door of the vet. After all, parking is scarce, and this guy didn't pay for 2 spots. Petty revenge. Later that night, after a day on the water, he returned to find that the Corvette's owner apparently didn't like having his door blocked and retaliated by keying the side of my friend's Cherokee. He filed a claim, lost his deductible, and got the side of his Jeep repainted. About a year later, he bought another boat and was working to restore the cabin. He drove into the garage, as he always does, and starts looking for a spot, when what does he see? The same crap brown Corvette with the same vanity plate. Well, the heavens were certainly thinking of justice today. He got out of his Jeep and opened the tailgate to peruse the plethora of instruments that were at his disposal. After all, he had a boatload of tools to restore his old boat. Screwdriver? Not much you can do with that. Hammer? Too cliche. Belt sander? No power cable. Battery-powered nail gun? Folks, we have a winner. A few quick minutes later, the fiberglass body of the Corvette was perforated by nails. Just putting nails through body panels is hardly fair to the nail gun, after all. Nails are supposed to connect things together. They must fulfill their purpose. We wouldn't want those nails to suffer an existential crisis, would we? So the doors, hood, boot lid, pop-up headlights, and even the fuel cap were all nailed shut. Do not F with another man's ride. Revenge will be served, and it may be very cold indeed. I wonder how the Corvette owner escalated the war when he returned to his car that evening. I suspect he'd consider the Cherokee owner the prime suspect. And our second story. Professor attempts to destroy my education. In my adopted motherland, I'm a religious minority. I'm a proud citizen now of this land who immigrated here, and stereotyping, while not very common, but not uncommon here, and this story is from my college life. It was one of my programming courses that the college hired a new professor for. Although I'm a religious minority and the professor was from a different religion, which also technically a religious minority in this land, that did not really mesh up well. I did not, as I still do not, care at all. You see, I myself am not much religious, and my point of view about religion is from the perspective of social science. I believe my first religion is humanity. Everything else is just a label. So back to the story. The professor is teaching us the basics of C++, as the course was the intro to C++, and during the final, he gave us a final project that either counted as the entire final or a major portion of the final exam. I can't recall the exact details since it was about 13 years ago. Once the project was done, we email it to him and he grades it. I do that and wait for my grade. It was spring semester and summer break/session is about to begin. Now, another bit of info here. If in a course you get an F for failing, the following semester you can take the course again, and if you pass, that F gets erased from your record and you're on your merry way toward your degree. But if for some reason, like you don't submit your final project, you get an I, incomplete, and now you have X amount of time to complete that work so that I can be transformed into a grade. I'm not too sure now, but I believe if you retake the entire course again, you get a grade, but that I stays with you and goes on your transcript/diploma. It's extremely frowned upon and may hinder your graduation. So after waiting a few weeks for the semester's result, I see I got an I. I immediately emailed the professor and asked why I got an I. No response. I call his office number. No response. I go to the department. They tell me that the professor has noted in my record, as I guess it was customary to do so, that I've not submitted my final project and hence the I. To which I fumed up and stated I had indeed sent my final project using our college email system, but the department states since I am within Y days of that X amount of days before I need to take care of that I, and since the professor went back to his motherland for a month, I should wait for him to return, and he's the only one that can reverse the I from my grade. They mentioned that he probably somehow missed my email containing my final project. The department assured me that once he's back from his country, they'll instruct him to fix this and notify me of it. I waited for his return till the very last week of that X amount of days. He did not come back. So that week, I went back to the department and stated my case. They mentioned that since he was not back, they'll email him to get some form of okay. I received his email with the project, and I see that either he passed or failed, he gets a grade. The comp sci department CCs me on that email. To my utter disbelief, the professor emails back the department chair. I'm still CC'd on it that he went back to the email and checked, and he got nothing from me. So that I stays. He explicitly states that I for incomplete stays. At this point, I began to fume so much that I went back to my department chair, and the department chair now wants me to prove that I sent that on that particular time, right before the end of the final. I log into the email account, and I dig through, find the email showing it in the sent box. Department chair replies to the professor that the chairman concurs that I indeed sent that email to the professor, to which then the professor replies, "It may very well be, but you know how sometimes, although the email is sent, it does not arrive at the recipient's inbox, so I did not get it." And right after that email, the professor now goes silent and does not respond back to the chair's emails. Every time I send an email, especially when as important as the college final project, since we're supposed to only use the email address that the college provided, when I sent the project from the college email, I also CC'd my personal email on that. I show the receipt email from my personal email, and department chair agrees that the email was indeed sent. By this point, I'm extremely desperate to overturn that I. I'll take an F if needed, but that I will hurt my education. I was extremely popular in our college circuit, so much so that our college was under a chain education system, and I'll not mention any names here, that had more than 20 different colleges and universities all across the city. I knew the head honcho, the chancellor, and the college president very much and very well. Now, on the last day, I go to the college president as well as the chancellor. I show them the proof and state my case. I might have mentioned to them that I'm in the process of getting a lawyer, as I feel that this is a clear, blatant, and extreme prejudice against me and may very well be racially motivated. They agree that the professor's behavior contained a negative intent towards me by giving me an I and not a grade that can be either the A, B, C, D, or F. I also lodge a formal complaint against the professor right then and there. They immediately instruct my department chair to take my project and grade it and then change that I. Now, you got to understand, this was not a norm. The chair does that, and I end up getting an A. When someone becomes a professor for the first time, the first year or so, they are on their probationary period, and if they do not make much splash, they can become permanent. And now the chancellor and the president of my college decide that it's in the university's best interest not to retain that professor any longer. Simply put, they fired his butt. I get my grade, I'm happy, summer ends, a new winter session is about to begin, and I get an email in my personal as well as college email account from that very same professor. Lo and behold, he apologizes to me for his behavior without directly admitting his prejudiced action towards me and asks me to withdraw my complaint so he can attempt to get his job back. I CC that email to the department chair, the college president, and the chancellor, and reply to him that I will not withdraw my complaint at all, and he's lucky I did not involve my lawyer for the serious harm that he intended to cause me. And I wish and pray that he never gets another chance to teach again, in the event that he might try and ruin another student's life. I graduated from that institution so long ago, but of all the great memories, the few sad ones, this sticks out to me. What goes around comes around. Try to mess with someone's future education, prepare to have your future work messed with. Respecting property lines. I work for a lawn care / landscaping company. We have a subdivision where we do like 15 yards or so, depending. Anyways, this one yard is super easy. We're in and out in like 15 to 20 minutes, depending on detail stuff. The problem was the neighbor. Typical nosy old biddy. She was always complaining we were crossing the property line, would stare out her window the entire time we were doing the yard, making sure we didn't cross her line. Apparently, the last guys that went there stepped on her side of the imaginary line and she freaked, calling the owner. Basically, he told us to avoid dealing with her as much as possible and just stay on our own side. We had a pretty big storm one weekend, so tree limbs were everywhere. I was picking up limbs when I saw her watching me, so I decided to be a jackwagon. I grabbed a shovel and went down the property line, breaking any limb, even the little ones, and only picking up the half on our side. I just looked up at her and smiled and carried on. She had a fence up the next week. And our last story. Roommate was stealing my marked leftovers. Title's pretty straightforward, but I'll elaborate. My old college roommate didn't know how to cook or do dishes and didn't go food shopping much. This led to him eating my food, especially my leftovers, as those were prepared meals. I would use my leftovers to meal prep for the week and told him to stop as it was expensive as well as inconvenient. The behavior did not stop, and he actually seemed to be eating more of my food out of spite. To punish him, I baked a chocolate cake with habanero peppers and mixed the frosting with wasabi. I labeled it with my name and a bold "Do not eat" and waited. This guy has a very low tolerance for spicy foods, so I thought he'd take one bite quickly and realize the error of his ways. About 2 days later, him and a couple of friends got really drunk while I was at work and decided to dig into my food. Somehow, they ate about a third of it before realizing. And when the inevitable went to throw up from over-drinking and eating spicy foods, he got hit by the cake a second time. Don't know for sure, but it couldn't have felt good coming out the back end. When he asked why I made this monstrosity, I told him I found a chocolate habanero recipe online that I wanted to try. He stopped eating my cooking after that. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.